Hi, how's your dog doing? Or as I would say in Toki Pona, Toki, sobrelito mo sinalipin seme? So I don't know about anyone else, but when I saw Jan Miseli's video about the new Toki Pona Dictionary pop up in my notifications, I was definitely not expecting such a thing to happen. I was not expecting anything new to being added to Toki Pona at all. But when I saw the dictionary, you better believe I got it immediately. Just kidding, I spent a couple of hours thinking about if it's worth the investment, then I got it. I know it says review in the title, and part of this video will be a review, but I actually have things I personally think are a bit more interesting. Let's just start with the book itself. This book is a 400-page long dictionary with 11,000 entries for a language that only has 137 words. You can't really count to 11,000 in Toki Pona. Well, you can, but who wants to sit here and watch me say Ali 110 times? This book is perfect, for me at least. I won't really focus on this since this video is about the dictionary, but I recently started a translation of a certain book into Toki Pona. I don't know about you, but I've always felt like this book is the book to translate into any language. That's why I'm doing it. Anyway, there were tons of concepts I really couldn't think of ways to say, so I'd have to look for online dictionaries. But with this dictionary, I pretty much never have to do that again. For example, I was a purist, somebody who only stuck to what was said in Lipupu before the dictionary came out. I had no idea how to say divide when something was being divided into more than two things. So I went with Palielukatan 1, literally making 5 from 1. Now that kipisi is a semi-official word, I can use that now. This book is perfect, and I think every Toki Pona speaker should get it. Though I don't think beginners should get the dictionary at first, because the dictionary is descriptive. It just documents how words are used and translated. It's not prescriptive, telling you how they should be used. The new 17 words have been given the thumbs up from Jan Sonia, but that doesn't really make them any better than any other words the community uses. I think that if you're a beginner, wait until you're sure that you're able to come up with new words for things first. For me personally, part of the fun of Toki Pona is that you're able to break down the way that you see things. For example, when I wanted a word for computer, I came up with ilosona, a tool of knowledge, because that's what I mostly use a computer for, gaining knowledge. But someone else, like Jan Miseli, might call it a poki nanpa, a number container, or an ilo nanpa, a number tool, which emphasizes a computer's original use as pretty much just a better calculator. This has to do with a really cool linguistic idea I thought of that I would like to cover, but would take up its own video, so we're not doing that here. Anyway, just looking at what the dictionary says can make you a bit lazy if you use it for every single word that's not an official word. For example, I thought of what a good phrase for a recorder would be while writing the script, as in something that records, not the instrument. I immediately thought, well, a recorder basically captures sound. I then simplified it to, a recorder is a tool that takes sound. So I'd call a recorder an ilopi lanpan kalama, literally a tool of taking sound. Lanpan is one of the new words, and it means to get, steal, or take. Now I could have looked at the word for record in the dictionary, the most common being sitelen, typically meaning sign, picture, image, and just add ilo to get ilo sitelen, a tool of recording, or a tool of image. But I broke it down myself into what I thought a good description would be. I actually think that the dictionary is best used after the new words added and the grammatical clarifications would actually be these little numbers. They show you how many people in the community translate a word that way. I think it's most useful so that you know what the most common and understandable way to say something is for a Toki Pona speaker. For example, because of the dictionary, I now know that there will be more people who know that I mean philosophy when I say nasin sona, literally way of knowledge, rather than when I say nasin kon, literally way of air, or way of soul, which would more accurately describe metaphysics, a specific branch of philosophy. Okay, for this part of the video, I'm just going to list off the new words and grammatical clarifications, which I think is the most important thing. Let's start with the words. So there are about 60 new words that have been added to this dictionary, but most of them are used by 20% or less of the community. So the 17 official new words are the ones that are used by the majority of Toki Pona speakers, so Jan Sonia has basically given them the thumbs up. There are 2 words that Jan Sonia just added anyway though. First, we have namako, kin, and oko. These are words that were originally a part of Toki Pona language of good, but were listed as synonyms of sin, and lukin respectively. But now, namako means spice, extra, addition, bonus, special, things along those lines. Kin means to, also, indeed, even, stuff like that. And oko now means eye, vision, visual, things along those lines. Kipisi, leko, and montuta were words that were created before Toki Pona the language of good was created, but were left out of it for some reason. Kipisi means to split, cut, divide, chop, a division, a slice, a segment, a section, to rip, you get the idea. Leko means square, block, cube, pretty much any quadrilateral, a shape with 4 sides, or I guess in the case of a cube, a 3D shape made of quadrilaterals. Monsuta means fear, to scare, monster, horror, terror, scary, afraid, stuff like that. Tonsi, Yasima, Soko, Meso, Epiku, Kokosila, Lanpan, and Misikeke are original words created by the community. Tonsi is my favorite word of all of these. Tonsi essentially means anyone who does not identify as mie, male, or meli, female, a non-binary person, a trans person, a gender non-conforming person, an intersex person, or super generally, an LGBTQ plus person. Yasima means reflect, opposite, reverse, counterpart, flip, copy, mirror, things like that. Soko is just a mushroom or fungus. Meso means average, moderate, medium, intermediate, ordinary, usual, neutral, standard, and other words like that you would use to describe me. Epiku is pretty easy. It means epic, awesome, amazing, spectacular. You know the type of words I'm talking about. Words you'd use to describe Toki Pona. When I first heard it, I thought kokosila meant alligator or crocodile or something, until I remembered that akisi exists and is already a Toki Pona word. Anyway, kokosila means speaking another language in a Toki Pona only environment. Kind of nice to get a word that only means one really specific thing, unlike pretty much the rest of Toki Pona's vocabulary. I actually have used this word before in a comment, and that was pretty cool. I just want to say I thank all of you who comment, because not only does it help my videos do better in the algorithm, but who cares at this point, but it also shows that people actually enjoy and engage in the content I make, which is the point of me making my videos. Lanpan, like I said earlier, pretty much means to steal, to take, to get, to capture, things where you are obtaining something, I suppose. Is just the Toki Pona version of etc. It does break Toki Pona's phonotactics, however, something that Jan Misali pointed out earlier. But tons of languages do things like that, where they have sounds for or that break some phonotactic rule. Misikeke means medicine, medication, vaccine, drug, healthcare, cure, pill, things related to repairing health. The last two words are ones that Jan Sonia made up. They are Kiete Santakalu, which Jan Sonia made up as a joke, meaning procyanoid or musteloidea, and ku, which means interacting with the Toki Pona Dictionary, pretty much what poo means, but for this book. Now, it's time to talk about the grammatical clarifications and other corrections to Toki Pona, the language of good. The first thing here is about how the first book shows that Jan Sonia uses Toki Pona. The second corrects the translation of chicken as waso nasa to meaning silly bird instead of its original definition as a stupid bird. This talks about how Lipupu uses names for parts of speech that would be familiar to English speakers, and how Toki Pona's words would more properly be described as content words like mi, ona, io, telo, etc., and particles like li, e, la, words like those. Singular is not actually the default in Toki Pona. I guess imagine words like mi as just being an unquantifiable first-person marker. This one just addresses tonsi, and that is a word that actually exists now. This clarifies that while kute is probably the most common word that can mean to obey, lukin can also be used if information is being conveyed visually. The word pu refers to interacting with Toki Pona, the language of good, and does not refer to the book itself. Of course, it can refer to the book itself, but that was not its intended meaning in pu. Likewise with ku. Jan Sonia addresses the fact that some people use intonation to make a sentence a question without using seme, anu, seme, or verb a la verb, and while this is perfectly acceptable, it's not recommended by her. Also, using lon to mean yes when answering a question is quite common as well. Basically, kepiken was commonly used as a verb, with which you could use but now kepiken is commonly used as a preposition, while others use it as a verb and a preposition. The only real difference is that is omitted. Instead of saying mi toki kepeken e Toki Pona to say I speak using Toki Pona, most people would just say mi toki kepeken Toki Pona. Also, Jan Sonia addresses how many people use prepositions as nouns as well. For example, many people would say mi toki elon to mean I say the truth. Lon has a very broad definition. For example, you can say mi toki kepeken Toki Pona, meaning I speak using Toki Pona. But you can also say mi toki lon Toki Pona, meaning I speak in Toki Pona. You can also use lon to basically mean talking about something. For example, mi toki lon nasin sona can mean I talk about philosophy. This just acknowledges the fact that most people would say, for example, yan pima mewika to say in American than saying yan mewika, which makes it sound like they're talking about a person called America, though both ways are acceptable. This is just a correction. Jan Sonia meant yan epawan Lincoln to mean Abraham Lincoln rather than yan epawam Lincoln like it says in the first book. P does not mean of. It is a particle that regroups how things are described. For example, waso kuletu means two colored birds, but wasapi kuletu means a two-colored bird. Also, there is a way of using P that involves N, which means and but only applies to subjects. Jan Sonia mentions a more robust base 6 or sexamal, as Jan Misali would say, number system based on the word kiete santakalu. The system works like this. 6 is represented by stressing the first syllable, 5 by stressing the second, 4 by stressing the third, 3 by stressing the fourth syllable, 2 by stressing the fifth, 1 by stressing the sixth, and 0 by stressing the last syllable. The different stress is not conveyed in writing though. You can use alasa, open, pini, and tawa as preverbs. For example, o alasa luki na lipu can mean try to read the document, with alasa meaning to try in this context. Mi open seli e pan can mean I started cooking rice, open meaning to begin here. Sina pini moku e kili can mean you finished eating the fruit, with pini showing that it's a finished action and basically making a perfect tense. Mi tawa moku e kala can mean I'll go eat fish, with tawa meaning go, expressing the future. Putting a comma before, after, or not including one when using la is optional. The first book shows that noka can mean area below or under, but this definition is more commonly attributed to anpa. This correction is the most interesting to me. You know how you can use li and e multiple times in the sentence to show multiple predicates and objects? For example, ona li moku e kili e kala li toki means they eat fruit and fish and they talk. You can't do that for me or Sina, since li is exclusively for third-person subjects. So if you wanted to say I eat fruit and fish and I talk, you have to say 3 separate sentences. So you'd say mi moku e kili, mi moku e kala, mi toki. Well, I suppose it's fine to use li and em multiple times when the subject is me or Sina, but that's not how Jan Sonia intended it to be used. Acknowledgement that Jan Melanie li kama lontomo mi is another way to say Melanie will visit my house on page 58 of Lipupu. Page 62 is considered by Jan Sonia to contain the most important message in Toki Pona, the language of good. This is just a correction to page 65 of Lipupu. It's supposed to be kulupupi Toki Pona li pana e io mute instead of kulupupi Toki Pona li pona e io mute. On page 75, Jan Sonia li Jan Nasa can also mean a sage is a strange person. Meli li Nasa e mie can also mean women will make men impulsive. Of course, Jan Sonia recognizes that not all men experience same-sex attraction in such a way. Instead of the old Toki Pona Luka, signed Toki Pona, presented in Lipupu, Jan Sonia recommends that we learn the new Luka Pona, which was designed by Jan Olipia. The community has made Sitelen Pona glyphs for non-pu words. There's also a different version of the glyph meaning sewi, which matches the other glyphs representing spatial words such as anpa. The place names shown in Lipupu are just suggestions and useful defaults that everyone can fall back on. People are free to make up new words for different places or even for the same place. Also, the same name is typically used for the country, language, and ethnic group. Jan Sonia poses a question. Does using ma sausi for Saudi Arabia mean that it's breaking Toki Pona's phonotactics? Or does this mean that Toki Pona's phonotactics are less strict when transcribing foreign words? Jan Sonia acknowledges that kin, namako, and oko were used as separate words from a, sinalukin before and after Lipupu was released. Akesi no longer means ugly animal, it just means reptile or amphibian. It also includes this really cute drawing of a frog by Vakon Sartirami. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Nasa now only means unusual, strange, silly, intoxicated, or drunk, at least in its adjectival form. The examples given for seli in Lipupu are actually nouns. Seli is not used as an adjective meaning fire-like or whatever that would be. So I can see some groups arising in the future due to the release of this book. I can think of about 4, which I can call the Yanpi Toki Pona Ale, people of all Toki Pona, Yanpu, people of Pu, or as we normally refer to them, purists, Yanku, people of the Toki Pona Dictionary, and the Yanpi Ku Suli, the people of many ku, or much ku, or big ku. So the Yanpi Toki Pona Ale would be the people who had taken everything from the Toki Pona community. What Yansoni made, the new ku words, and whatever words the community makes up. The Yanpu are what we call purists. Purists are people who only accept what Jan Sonia put in Toki Pona, the language of good. I used to be one of these people. I don't think it's completely unreasonable to be a purist because everyone will understand what you're saying since everyone uses the same base 120 words. Yanku are the people who accept the Nimiku Suli, the 17 important words that Jan Sonia approved in the Toki Pona Dictionary. I am one of these people. I feel it to be the most correct because the new words are ones that Jan Sonia has made official in Toki Pona. I will also make sure to add the Nimiku Suli in my Toki Pona lessons. Yanpiku Suli are the people who accept all 180-something words that are in the Toki Pona Dictionary, but aren't really official since a minority of the community uses them. I'm not supposing some kind of Utalapi Toki Pona, a Toki Pona fight happening, which would be pretty interesting, but I just think it's breaking down the two groups that existed beforehand, purists and the Yanpi Toki Pona Ale, into smaller groups. Since now, it's kind of unfair to write off the Yanku as being more liberal people when it comes to the language. The only reason I personally use the 17 Nimiku Suli is because for the most part, there are useful words that have been pretty much made official by Jan Sonia. I don't really have much else to say about the dictionary, but I do recommend that you get it as it's an incredibly useful resource for any Toki Pona speaker. Tell your dog I said hi, or as I should say, Toki ni tawa solito mo sina, yan sisiyun ni Toki e Toki. This one took a lot longer to make than expected. This was definitely the longest script I've ever had to write for a video. I have 3,097 words in this script, way more than 1,900 in my first and worst video. Well, I'm done here. Mitawa.